Hello, believers. Hello, warriors. Welcome back to the Christian Market Watch. This is your host, Chillie. And you know what I always say? Let's support each other because now more than ever, we need each other. Let's love each other and love God so that we can all tide through these difficult circumstances. Let me support you too. More than just on this YouTube channel, if you want to subscribe to me on Instagram or Twitter, I will post updates there of new trends that I see. And on my Instagram, I will post short videos. So if you don't have time to watch all of the long videos, go ahead and subscribe to that Instagram account at Chillie Verity and link in the description below to be able to support one more person. That really gives me the reason why I start these vlogs and do all of these reels and stay up late. Right now it's 11:55 p.m. so yeah, that would make my day because I know it's going to benefit you as much as it's benefiting me. We are all in this together. And with that said, let's begin today's market update. Following the 4th of July, right now it's only about 10 a.m. in the US on the 5th of July, even though right now it's almost midnight here in Australia. So basically we don't have a lot of data, but the US did start the day horribly. It was crazy. Like all of the rebound that it had on Friday were completely eaten away as the markets opened holistically in a pan sell off. There was nothing that was up. Everything was about 1 to 2% decrease from where it closed on Friday. And so, yeah, that is very, very horrible. But today I want to focus on the topic of the dark times that are coming ahead. It really surprises me once again, as I keep saying this in my videos, like every one of these updates. It really surprises me how many people are still unawares. How can you? You have to put a blindfold on your eyes and be walking around completely blinded to not see the economic signs and signals that keep coming. But another way I can think about it is Jesus did say when he was on earth that the sons of the world are smarter than the sons of the light. Maybe that is the reason why we're not getting this, because we as believers have been brought up in this middle class, complacent, comfortable church life where you pray to God and everything will be well, and you give God $100, he'll give you $1,000 back, and all of this BS. Okay, guys, wake up. That time is over. We are heading into very, very dark times that are coming ahead, and it's gonna completely swallow us up if we're not vigilant. I don't know how else to say this, but today I want to focus on the dark times that are coming and looming. You can see it just coming and like a pressure wave right at you. Thing after thing after thing after thing. And I'm gonna tell you what these all are. I was telling a friend during the weekend, and he's only in uni, and so he's never been taught anything about money, and I was explaining to him all of the monetary system, how global markets are dependent on each other, and how we have the petrodollar system, where even if we are all the way here in Australia, if we want to buy any commodities, and if we want to buy oil, we still have to trade in US dollars, and that's why the US dollar is so important to us, because that is pretty much a centerpiece of the whole economic health. Yeah, basically that's the thing. And that was before the Atlanta Fed came out with the news to confirm recession being more than likely, with the GDP being at negative 2.1% as they updated us last week. That would be the second quarter of the GDP being in negative territory, which marks the official definition of what a recession is. Now, Australia is not in negative recession outcomes yet, but from reading, and I actually read it today, spent some time reading through what caused the March GDP to be where it is. The signs are not looking good. The signs of Australia reflects the same trends that US had a couple quarters ago. And I feel like we are maybe half a year to a year playing catch up in our metrics, catching up to the US trend. And very, very soon, within half a year, I believe that we're going to see the same trends that are happening in the US happening locally. And this is your 3-month to 6-month heads up. So if you want to know what's going to happen to Australia, just look at the US market. That is a precursor to what's going to happen here right here in our local grounds. But let's talk about all of this. First of all, I was telling him that we did not need the Atlanta Fed to give us an update on what GDP would be like, because what makes up the whole global economy and its output are many different indicators, many different sectors of the market. You know, you have the housing market, you have the producer manufacturing index, and you have the CPI, and you have all of these many metrics that are coming one after another, that together make up the effect of what we see in the GDP number. And so if you can think of this GDP as this big thing, and you have this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, many little small constituents, when each one of these are building blocks to the big thing, and each one of these are going negative, you know the final number before it even is announced. Months before that, you already know that it's not gonna look good. So this is the message that I'm trying to put out there. When we see these little signs, we need to learn to take heed and also see them in a string, like basically like a necklace. You know, each chain is linking to another, and they're not independent of each other, but they kind of are all linked together, and one thing affects another, which affects another. And so I really want you to get this concept so that you know for yourself where things are going, even before official announcements of how the economy is. Because by the time the ABC News is telling you, or the CNBC, CNN, Bloomberg, when they're all talking about the recession, guys, it's already happened 3 to 6 months ago. And that's the reality. And this is the heads up. First of all, the ASX traded higher, 16 points higher today, which is 0.25%, on the back of the Reserve Bank of Australia increasing interest rates by 0.5%. That is another 50 basis points. That is one of the largest hikes. And just to remind you, 2 months ago, the total number is 0.35%. Right now, it is 1.35%. This is a 4 times increase to what it was just 2 months ago. And I just want that to sink in. How are most people going to cope with this 4 times increase? This interest rate rise acts as an inflation to the consumer prices, not to overall inflation, but to the consumer prices and spending power, to eat away and basically tax extra all of the money that they're increasing this interest rate by. And that then becomes government tax that then goes to offset the spending and the inflationary money printing that they've printed a lot during 2020, 2021, you know, in all of the, you know, STEMI checks that they were sending out. That surprised me, because the Australian economy investors obviously don't understand what is going on yet, because if they did, the stock market would plummet, and they're not getting it yet, unfortunately. What they see is a paper cut, and so the next thing that's gonna come is one thing and another, which will be a bruise in your knee. And if you still don't heed that, the next thing that's gonna come is a brick in the head. And you and I want to try and avoid that brick in the head. And the second piece of news that I saw, which is very rare actually, because we don't really get that much coverage about these sort of stuff from this perspective. But Australian Super CIO Mark Delaney, he mentioned 2 weeks ago that recession is coming. He has billions of dollars of Australian super in his management. And he's trying his best right now to position all of these portfolios right so that they can weather the downturn. He said no matter what you do, if the whole market is selling off, you cannot avoid your super also going down with the market. And you're going to have negative returns for quite a few years. This is what he's saying. And he says that when it goes down, that is all part of wanting to preserve long-term wealth and letting it go up again. But I beg to differ. Honestly, if everything's gonna go down, then the thing that they should do is to at least perhaps exchange it for cash. But they won't do that for you. In all of your superannuation, unless you're maybe self-managing it, There's no cash option that just lets you park fresh cash there and let it sit there and not do anything. Even the cash options there are trading in the repo market, the government's interbank lending facility. The third piece of economic news, this should come as another bruise on your knee, is the severe flooding in southeast New South Wales. And that is very, very horrible considering we are only 4 days into the new financial year. Our insurance companies are upping the reinsurance rates and increase the premium that they have to pay in order to take care, hopefully, of all of the liabilities and expenses that come out of all of this year's future disasters. And we're only 4 days in and we're already having severe flood in New South Wales. I was listening to a lady that was sharing, I forgot where it was, maybe ABC News or something. She was sharing about how devastated she is, and her husband was strong as, but she's never seen him break down so badly, because this is the second time now in 3 years that their house was flooded. The first time when it flooded, they were like, okay, I'll come back, and try to restore everything. But after this time, they're like, no, that's it. I've had enough. Like, just to experience all of that loss again and spending all that money. How many of us can honestly have enough money to replace our everything in our home twice over, 3 times over? And most of us are probably underinsured in our contents insurance. And there's a lot of things that contents insurance doesn't even cover as well, like it was just devastating. This should be another bruise in the knee, so that that Australians are being hampered in their financial capability to be resilient. The next bit, household spending has increased and household savings have decreased in the March quarter because of increased housing prices and fuel prices. And this is something that you and I know, but that should be another bruise in your knee. We're getting quite a few bruises now. But the funny thing is that the ABS thinks that this is a good thing, as in it's increasing the overall spending in the economy. But what they're not saying is that it's not a good thing when household spending is increased because of housing and fuel. Because people are not spending money on the things they want to buy. They're spending money on the things they have to get, like they have to travel for work so that they can earn money. They have to pay for the rent so that they have a roof over their head. They're not spending it on manicures. They're not spending it on, discretionary items or Netflix subscriptions and stuff like that. So this is a very bad sign, and that's why in the metrics that we're seeing, there's confusion. Or maybe they just don't want to tell you about what is really going on here. Can you hear this perspective? Okay, and the next thing, don't forget that before New South Wales got hit by a flood, New South Wales and the eastern seaboard in Australia is currently in an energy crisis. We have problems just turning the lights on. And as I said, like today, I actually bought a little handheld torch, where you can just do that and then you turn it up, and yeah, it just stays on for quite a long time actually, with a couple of presses. And I want to get another one that is more like a lantern, so that it's brighter as well. This will wind up, and I guess this is just my way of wanting to save electricity in case the energy crisis becomes really, really badly. But I also don't think that I wouldn't mind if I have that to actually just use it as a normal thing and pretend that I'm camping out somewhere. So don't forget, that's another crisis that should signal to us that Australian economy is becoming more fragile, more weaker, and is becoming less able to deal with more consecutive changes, especially financially, with today the Reserve Bank increasing interest rates by 0.5% or 50 basis points, and they're already telling us that they're expecting to keep increasing that in the future months without any reprieve for homeowners whatsoever. they're gonna bankrupt a lot of people who are already suffering under their mortgage payments, and people who may have over leveraged. Maybe they have lender's mortgage insurance and borrow more than 80% of the home value, and now we're expecting to see house prices drop by 10 to 15% across all of Australia. I just don't know. Like, when your house prices are gonna drop, the banks are gonna revalue your loan and your capacity to pay, and revalue the inflation and interest rates. And especially if you're on variable rates, you know that increase just gets passed on to you straight away. That's just gonna cause a lot of hurt. Our wealth is literally being flooded away, while a new monetary system is coming in the background, and they're not really publicizing that yet, except for the people who are in the know and reading these things. The Bank of International Settlements have started writing up a new document governing digital currencies, and they're basically predicting that each major bank across each country will have a central bank digital currency, CBDC. And if you don't know what that is, feel free to look it up. And basically, it's kind of like a cryptocurrency of the central banks. And what they're proposing, you know, for all the people who are thinking that Bitcoin is the way of the future, no. As I already expected that this was coming, basically they're wanting to put Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies in a second, more risky group of currencies that are going to be subjected to a lot more regulation than the ones that they approve of, which happens to be their own central bank digital currency. They're proposing that in the future, everything that you can see can be tokenized, and basically your house, if it's worth $400,000, it will be tokenized into little chunks, and they will be all in an app. Maybe they didn't say exactly when, but I'm just saying maybe it's on an app, you know, and you can see all of the ledger down, however you access it. If you're in a pinch and inflation and food cost is too expensive, they will allow you to take some of the equity of your house to pay for groceries, and you don't even have to sell the house. You can still continue to live in it, but the danger is that sooner or later you will find that you will use up all of the equity in your house. So you had already paid off $50,000 of your home loan. You have completely spent the $50,000 on little bits of rice, eating out, a movie ticket, all of these small little things, and before you know it, you don't own the house anymore. And that's why a lot of the economists who are on our side, more on the Austrian economic side, we are suspecting that by this measure, by 2030, all of these things will not only be in place, we're probably thinking by 2025 it will be in place, and people will start losing their wealth through this lie and deception way of, it's like this very sly way of eating up your wealth by not necessarily stealing it from you in broad daylight, but they are, by allowing you to access that equity in a way that's up to your discretion and up to your impulses. You see how this is very evil, because God has this rule in the Jewish community that generational wealth should never be sold. And if it was sold for any reason, for example, if you're in deep financial stress, then the closest kinsman redeemer needs to come back and buy it back for that person who lost it and give it back to them. By doing this, they will protect the wealth of people for generations, and Jews will never be poor. At least they will have a roof over their heads, no matter what, something that they completely own. So can you understand that if you completely take away the equity of your house, and now you don't even own the house because you spend all the money that you paid off, okay? And so technically on paper it looks like you own it, but you don't. And something happens, say you were thinking something, because now even your thoughts are linked up to this central AI system. Say you committed a thought crime, and you thought something about, oh man, I hate going to work on Mondays. And in their algorithm, hating Mondays is banned. You're not allowed to be unhappy about Mondays. Okay, you should be so enthusiastic to go to work and be a debt slave. You should be so happy that you even have a job. So then what they could technically do is throw you out of your house because you now don't own it. You don't even own any part of it. So you become very vulnerable in the system. So they can kick you out whenever they want. And you're completely helpless. You have no way of redeeming yourself, negotiating, nothing, because it was your own fault that you spent all of this $50,000 in equity on movie tickets, on rice. You should have known it was your discretion, but now you own nothing. And yeah, this is the brick in the head. I think this is truly the brick in the head that we need to see. They're gonna do all of these things, and all of this recession and all of this New South Wales flooding, all these other indicators, fuel price increasing, Ukraine war, all of this is just gonna worsen the issue and cause the speeding up of the central bank digital currency system to be put in place, basically. So this is a very scary world that we're heading into. I want you to know that they don't plan on the Australian dollar to live forever. That's why they're happy when inflation takes place. They don't care. They honestly don't care. They don't care about you and I. They don't care about the wealth that we have. In fact, they want to find ways to take away wealth that belongs to you and I and give it to them. And that's why in the last video I told you guys, where your treasure is, there your heart should be. So you should always be watching and paying careful consideration to your own money, because unless you do that, someone else who thinks of your assets as their own assets and wants your assets more than you want to keep it, they're gonna come and take it away from you. This is the reality, guys. And so in the next video, I'm going to talk a bit more about how to have that self-control, how to look out for yourself and be in charge of your own decisions. I think that is a very, very crucial and critical aspect that we need to cover so that we can remain resilient in these times of change. So hopefully this video provided value for you. Hopefully this really puts out on the plate here, on the timeline, all of these economic news that should help you and I be clear and aware, or at the same time, how the economy is going, what the dark times are that are coming ahead right at us, in our face. I want to keep you safe. Please share this video with someone. Help keep them safe, please. Please help keep them safe. And I want to hear from you. I want to know your comments on this. Are you feeling the inflation? Are you being affected by the New South Wales flood at the moment? Do you have a friend in Australia that's perhaps going through this, or maybe something similar is happening in your country? I want to hear from you. Comment below. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.